been a momentous day for the Indian democracy. As you all know, election to the office of the President of India was held today, and we've been getting you extensive coverage through the day-to-day of this mega event of the Indian democracy, analyzing various aspects relating to the presidential election this year, the significance, the impact, the political calculations, in choosing the candidates by both sides, the NDA and the UPA. So quick rewind of some significant points of the presidential election this year. Around 4,800 members of parliament and MLAs cast their votes till about 5 p.m. So, the voting began at 9 a.m. this morning. In fact, 10 a.m., I beg your pardon, and continued till about 5 p.m. to elect the 15th president of India. Also, the president, as you're all aware, is elected by an electoral college in the country comprising of elected members of parliament, also state legislative assemblies. Nominated legislators and members of the legislative councils are not part of the electoral college, and therefore they cannot vote in the presidential election. Coming to this year's contest now, so it's been a battle between Draupadi Murmu, who's the NDA candidate, and Mr. Yashwant Sinha. He's the joint opposition candidate. In fact, some parties from the opposition camp have, rallied behind Draupadi Murmu, who comes from the tribal community, and also, if elected, she'll be only the second woman president in India. With over 20 parties having declared support for Draupadi Murmu, the stage looks all set for her to become the first tribal president of the country, as I told you, and also the second woman president of the country, Manoj.
जी बिल्कुल, नमस्कार, स्वागत है आपका संसद टीवी पर। मैं हूं मनोज वर्मा, और जैसा कि हम पूरे दिन भर से आपको बता रहे हैं कि राष्ट्रपति चुनाव के लिए जो मतदान हो रहा है उसकी क्या स्थिति है। दिल्ली में संसद भवन में परिसर में सुबह से ही लगातार वोटिंग सांसद सदस्यों ने की है। बड़ी संख्या में सांसद सदस्यों ने अपने मत का प्रयोग किया है। उसी प्रकार राज्यों से जो खबरें आ रही हैं, विधायकों ने भी बढ़ चढ़कर इसमें हिस्सेदारी की है। जाहिर तौर पर एनडीए की जो उम्मीदवार हैं द्रौपदी मुर्मू जी और विपक्ष के उम्मीदवार यशवंत सिन्हा के बीच मुकाबला है, लेकिन कई समीकरण उभर के सामने आए हैं। तस्वीर सामने है कि किस तरफ पलड़ा भारी है, किस तरह पे। हालांकि नतीजे 21 तारीख को आएंगे, 21 जुलाई को आएंगे, तब पता लगेगा कौन कितने वोटों से जीता या हारा। लेकिन आज हम उस तस्वीर पर बातचीत करेंगे जो उभर के पूरे दिन भर में सामने उभर कर आ रही है। 3 खास मेहमान हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं। बिजनेस स्टैंडर्ड की राजनीतिक संपादक अदिति फर्नांडिस जी हमारे साथ हैं। अदिति जी, आपका स्वागत है संसद टीवी पर। साथ ही हम बात करेंगे ऑर्गेनाइजर के संपादक प्रफुल्ल केतकर जी से। प्रफुल्ल जी, आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है संसद टीवी पर। और हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं वरिष्ठ पत्रकार शेखर अय्यर जी। शेखर जी, आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है जी। जाहिर तौर पर प्रफुल्ल जी, अगर मैं आपसे जानना चाहूं तो आज दिन भर से जिस तरह से मतदान हुआ है, जाहिर तौर पे हमने देखा संसद भवन में भी बढ़ चढ़कर सदस्यों ने भाग लिया। आप कैसे देखते हैं इस बार के जो राष्ट्रपति के चुनाव हैं उसको? क्या इसका संदेश है, क्या इसके मायने हैं?
देखिए, एक तो हमको ये समझ में आना चाहिए कि संवैधानिक सर्वोच्च पद, हेड ऑफ द स्टेट, प्राइम मिनिस्टर तो हेड ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट होता है, लेकिन हेड ऑफ द स्टेट के लिए जब इलेक्शन हो रहा हो तो उसका अपना एक संवैधानिक महत्व है। और ऐसे में सिंबलिकली एक महिला का कैंडिडेचर होना, वो भी जनजाति क्षेत्र से होना, गवर्नर जिसने एक तरह से हम कह सकते हैं कि सेल्फ मेड है, बिल्कुल पंचायत लेवल से लेकर एमएलए से लेकर गवर्नर तक का एक रास्ता उन्होंने अपने दम पर कायम किया है। ऐसी महिला का राष्ट्रपति पद का उम्मीदवार बनना, ये अपने आप में एक बड़ा मैसेजिंग था। और ऐसे में हम देखते हैं, हम कहने के लिए तो कह रहे हैं कि जॉइंट अपोजिशन कैंडिडेट, लेकिन वास्तविकता क्या है? देखिए, अभी चुनाव आते आते कितने सारे समीकरण बदल गए। उड़ीसा के मुख्यमंत्री ने तो पहले डिक्लेयर कर दिया था, झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चा साथ में आ गया। कांग्रेस में बहुत जगह पे आज के वोटिंग पैटर्न से समझ में आ रहा है कि जैसे गोवा में भी हुआ तो एक तरह से क्रॉस वोटिंग होने की संभावना है। शिवसेना जो ऐसे लग रहा था कि उस समय शायद नहीं रहेगी, अब शिवसेना के दोनों खेमे जो है वो एक ही तरफ एक तरीके से आ गए हैं। तो कुल मिलाकर जो डिफरेंस था वो 1.79% का था। इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज में एनडीए के पास जो कम था वो उस समय ऐसा माना जा रहा था कि यदि नवीन पटनायक और वाईएसआर कांग्रेस भी साथ में आ जाती है तो ये मैनेज हो जाएगा। लेकिन जिस तरह से एआईएडीएमके, झारखंड मुक्ति मोर्चा, शिवसेना का पूरा खेमा और बाकी डिफेक्टेड वोट्स, उसमें आप शिवपाल यादव भी जोड़ सकते हैं, तो एनसीपी के उम्मीदवार ने ये कहा है कि मैंने अपने पर्सनल कॉन्शियंस से वोट किया है
जी
गुजरात में। तो ये सारे दिखाता है कि कहाँ पे किस तरफ रुझान जा रहा है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ठीक है, अपोजिशन ने यशवंत सिन्हा जी को लाकर पहले 2-3 जो प्रस्तावित कैंडिडेट्स थे उन्होंने विड्रॉ करने के बाद, चाहे फारूक अब्दुल्ला हो, चाहे शरद पवार हो, चाहे गोपाल गांधी हो, एक कैंडिडेट लाया। यशवंत सिन्हा ने अपनी तरफ से एक तरीके से पोजीशनिंग करने का भी प्रयास किया। लेकिन कुल मिलाकर आज का रुझान देखने के बाद ये लगता है कि एनडीए के कैंडिडेट को एक एज है।
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers look heavily stacked in favor of the NDA candidate, Ms. Draupadi Murmu. Aditya ji, coming to you, both candidates, be it from the NDA side, the UPA side, are well qualified. They've had a good political background as well. Mr. Yashwant Sinha also has a BJP connection. That's been the interesting part because both leaders have a BJP connection. But the fact that, the opposition perhaps, was in a hurry to declare the candidate and they didn't anticipate this kind of calculation by the NDA. It's been always, the BJP has been known for this kind of surprise. So the significance that the larger messaging is about social inclusion, about empowerment of that group which has for long, been craving for this. They've not gotten their due since independence, and now they're adequately being represented, being brought into the mainstream.
Well, of course, it's a matter of great pride for us that a person who is from a community which is which has been marginalized for years and years is now coming to lead the country as the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and other constitutional positions that the President of India has. But I would say that even though he knows that he is going to be a losing candidate, and frankly, regardless of the beginning of the election and regardless of the candidate that the BJP may have fielded, whoever it may have been, the opposition didn't have much of a chance of getting its candidate elected. Despite that, for a person of the caliber of Yashwant Sinha, who has been External Affairs Minister, who has been Finance Minister, and who has been a person of considered to have had great integrity and has served as one of the most important lieutenants of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He may have fallen out with the BJP later. He is not the first, he will not be the last. But I think it's a degree of dignity and courage on his part to have entered a contest where he was clearly, from the word go, not a front runner, not a winner in that sense.
Absolutely. So the credentials of both have been very, very strong, Mr. Iyer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the fact that, that India is going to get the first president from the tribal community far outweighed all the other factors, all the other credentials, which both candidates supposedly had, Mr. Iyer.
Indeed, Tina ji, this election is about making history or about who is on which side of the history. That's a very important thing. The fact that Bharatiya Janata Party chose Draupadi Murmu, a former governor of Jharkhand, a former minister of Odisha, a former MLA of Odisha, a person who began from the panchayat level, from the town panchayat level onwards, to become the governor of a state, and all through her career, the kind of record she has left, a kind of a life of probity, and the life which, when she completed her tenure as governor and when she went back to her village, her life was exactly, more or less exactly the way it had started all along. So therefore you can see that that person's life is the message. Apart from the fact that she belongs to the Santal community, so therefore what we have seen is ever since the BJP made the announcement, something has been happening at the people level, the kind of reactions that have come from particularly those states where there is a sizable tribal population. You are seeing a lot of jubilation, and I understand many people have even put it as their display picture in their WhatsApp groups in states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and above all West Bengal. See, the West Bengal, where particularly the districts like Medinipur, you have Purulia, all these places where there is a lot of tribal population and people belonging to the most oppressed and depressed classes, there the kind of reaction that has come, that gives you a message that this presidential election is not about electoral college choosing somebody, but giving representation to hitherto underrepresented communities at the highest level. So there is a big political message. And this election is not about Yashwant Sinha. You see, Yashwant Sinha has his own credentials. As has been mentioned here, he is a former finance minister, former external affairs minister, had a long innings. He had served Karpuri Thakur as a personal secretary. And then, and also he has been in every party. I mean, not that his journey, of course, he has spent more than 2 decades in the BJP. And his persona today is a statement and his commitment to oppose Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That is his biggest USP message today, that he stands for everything that he is against Prime Minister. So that is the issue. But this election is not about that, because for that you have other elections. You will have assembly elections in states, you will have parliamentary elections coming in 2024. There are other elections. But this election is about what kind of message. And the parallel I can see, Tina, is the election of K.R. Narayanan. When K.R. Narayanan was elected as the President of India, and at a time when there was a Congress-backed United Front government, and that is at that time also, just as Congress was very happy that Narayanan won a very impressive victory and became the President of India, thereby becoming the first Dalit to occupy the high office. So similarly, now you are seeing another history being made, where first time India will have a tribal person of course, the qualification of the Draupadi Murmu is just a tribal. The fact that in India you are witnessing a person, that to a woman, from a community which has a present.
जी बिल्कुल शेखर जी, आपको सीधे लिए चलते हैं दिल्ली के डॉक्टर अंबेडकर इंटरनेशनल सेंटर, जहां प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी एक कार्यक्रम को संबोधित कर रहे हैं जो नौसेना के नवाचार और स्वदेशीकरण संगठन के स्वावलंबन सेमिनार पर केंद्रित है। आइए सीधे आपको लिए चलते हैं।
21